All right, so let's just review a little bit about loops. We talked about counting loops, and we used for loops, while loops, and do while loops. So let's just, the only examples we've done so far are for loops and while loops. But let's just review here. We have three kinds of loops. You have a for loop, and a while loop, and you have a do while loop. A do while loop is going to do whatever you're planning to do and test at the end, so it will always go once. For for loops and while loops, you need to do three things. You need to initialize, test, and update. So let's do an example of a counting loop with a while loop, or just at least the way a do while loop is set up. So a do while loop would be set up where the condition is tested at the end. So we'll just do this example of the counting loop that went 10 times. So we had an integer, and we were going to print programming is fun 10 times. So I'm going to just use an integer called number, and I'm going to initialize it to 0. So in a do while loop, the initialization may or may not be important because you're always going to go inside of the loop body. So in here, in the loop body, I can print the programming is fun. And update my number, num++, and test while num is less than 10. This wouldn't be the best, and it ends with a semicolon. A do while loop would not be the best choice for a counting loop, but just to show you the structure of what a do while looks like. So a do while loop has the keyword do, and these are the opening curly braces, and these are the closing curly braces, and then the test of the loop is at the end. So it's going to do it once no matter what. A do while loop is better for things like games, where you would play the game and then ask the user, would you like to play again? Not really very useful for counting loops, but at least you can see the structure by this example. All right, so these are the different kinds of loops. We already talked about that, and we talked about a counter-controlled loop, which the best kind of counter-controlled loop would either be a for loop or a while loop. And then we talked about how you could, instead of saying time equals time minus 1, you could do time minus equals 1, etc. All right, so now we can talk about conditional loops. Now this is a conditional loop that wants you to enter values. So you ask the user to enter a value, and then you get a value. Now if the user enters a negative value, then you can tell the user that negative value is invalid, so you need to go again. So if the way that this loop is set up is that if the user keeps entering a negative value, then it's going to keep asking until eventually you get a value that you want, which is not negative. So this is a conditional loop, but it still uses the same setup. Here's initialization. So if when you initialize the value, if the user initializes by entering a positive value, you will not go inside of this loop because the test only says if the value that the user entered was negative. So you get a number. If the value the user gives you is negative, then you say, nope, that's no good. Try again. We test. If they give you another negative, nope, that's no good. Try again. So this is a kind of loop that that will keep the user until you can get a value that you want. Then down here, eventually the user will hopefully give you a positive number, which will stop the loop. And then down here is where you would use the num obs that is a positive value. So this is just another kind of loop, but it's very important you have to decide what you want to do with your loop, why you're going to keep your loop going, but most importantly, you need to have initialization, test, and update. All right, so this is a loop that's going to continue to compute something until you get a Sentinel value. So if you notice up here at the top, there is pound defined Sentinel -99. So this is the Sentinel value, -99. So what's going to happen in this loop, you're going to, this is initialization, you're going to get a score. If the user were to give you a -99, you would not go into the loop body. This is not this is a Sentinel controlled loop. It's a loop that says as long as the user gives you anything other than -99, you will go in here and add it to the score. So that's the way you read this. As long as score does not equal -99. So if you put here a -99 does not equal -99. So of course, that's not true. So if the score is a -99, then that's going to make this false, and it's going to end the loop. And that's called a Sentinel control loop. It's one in which you continue to get a value until the Sentinel has been reached. And this, once again, this is initialization, this is the test, and this is the update. All right, so this is just a run of it. So if the user enters a 55, a 33, so if you can run it and watch, if the user were to enter 55, so oops, so the first number to be entered is 55. So you get your score, you get a 55, you check, 55 does not equal -99, that's true. So it will be added to the sum. Then you say enter the next score, you get the next score. Sorry, I keep hitting that. The next score is a 33. This 33 does not equal -99. This is true. So you add it to the sum. Get the next score, 77. 77 does not equal -99. Enter the next one, get the next one. -99 does not equal -99. This becomes false and ends the loop in that situation. All right, so here's another example of a do-while loop. In this situation, you want to force the user to give you a number between 10 and 20. That does not include 10 and it does not include 20. So basically 11 through 9, any number 11 to 19. So what you're doing here is you do not really need to initialize anything, because the way that a do-while loop works is that it's going to do it and then test at the end. So here in this situation, you prompt the user for a number, say enter a number between 10 and 20, and the user will give you a number. So say the user gives you the number 25. Then what happens? If the number is less than or equal to 10 or greater than or equal to 25, it is not a number between 10 and 20. So you're going to go again. You're going to say, nope, that was no good. Enter a number between 10 and 20. The user enters the number 11. So 11 is not, this is false, because 11 is not less than or equal to 10. And this also becomes false because 11 is not greater than or equal to 20. So that would end the loop, and then you would have your value of your number, and you could continue on because you've got the kind of input that you desire. All right, so let's just review once again that there are three kinds of loops. There are for loops, and the way for loops are set up, you have initialization, and test, and update, all within the header of the for loop, which is very helpful because then it helps you to remember how to, when you're designing your loop. A while loop, you have initialize before the loop, and then you have your while loop with your test condition, and inside of the loop body you would do your update, And with a do while loop, you have your do, and then you do your update inside of the loop body, and you may or may not initialize. It depends on what it is that you're trying to do. But at any rate, something will be done inside of the loop body because it's going to do something. And then at the end of the loop body, it will test, and it ends with a semicolon. So those are the three kinds of loops, and those are the way that they are organized. And the most important thing about designing loops is remembering these three things: initialization, test, and update, and also to figure out what it is that's controlling your loop. If it's a counting loop, you have a counter to control it. If it's a loop that's going to continue to get input until a user gives something to stop, then you need a variable to control that. And if it's a Sentinel controlled loop, you need a variable that's going to be getting that Sentinel input. So it just takes some planning and practice in order to write decent loops.